Here, there we go. That's a lot better. And do this. All right, I think I'm ready. How's everybody out there? Let me make sure I type a welcome to the chat here. So, welcome to the chat. Start things off really nice. I do appreciate you taking your time to watch this live stream, the Wednesday Night Hump. I again am Michael McWilliams. I am the purveyor of tales, I guess you could call me. Professional musician, producer, songwriter, a lot of things I've done. And this is my live stream. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, taking your time. Time's a valuable thing, I always say. And for a little bit of yours with me is really greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. While I wait for people to show up here in the live stream tonight, I will talk about things that, hey Ben, how you doing? Doing fine. Tired, didn't sleep a lot last night. It was a rough one. But, and it was hot today, I have to say honestly, seriously. This we got a kind of an Indian summer thing going here in Amsterdam, and yeah, it's been interesting. Kind of reminds me of California weather a little bit, so it does have a kind of reminiscent feel to it. But it has been nice so far. Again, while we wait for more people to join into the live stream, I will ramble on about such things as the weather. What's going on? Well, nothing new. As you know, I didn't do an unboxing this month because to get anything shipped or delivered in any kind of reasonable manner in August in Europe is an exercise in futility. So I decided to just not do it this month. But I was going to have my guy ship it out this weekend. Just so happened a major typhoon is coming right his way. So I don't think that that's going to happen. I have my sincere doubts that that's going to happen. But it's okay. I hope that the typhoon doesn't do too much damage. It's a pretty big one heading that way. Of course, I keep my eye on Japan, and they've got a pretty serious typhoon headed their way. So yeah, so no shipment. I don't think that's going to happen this weekend. So we shall see what goes with that. I have identified several instruments that I'd like to procure going forward here. So I am anxious to get this one rolling. And I don't do multiple shipments. I am a cautious bird. Yeah, I'm really cautious. And I'll do them one at a time. I could double them up, but nah, this is not time for that. But yeah, so yeah, no shipping this weekend. The type has decided otherwise, I think. Pretty much we're sure of that. Excuse me, I've got something in my eye. Um, I was watching um, videos on YouTube, kind of like one of those things. And came across this video where this gentleman was talking about rap music back in the 90s. And I said, well, I was around in the 90s in the music business. And I remember a thing or two about the rap industry. Uh, it wasn't the type of music that I was doing. I was more R&B, getting into rock kind of thing myself. But I knew quite a few guys who were. And he was talking about a particular video from probably my favorite rapper of all time, Biggie, and the Big Papa video. And he was pointing out that the lead actress in that video actually uh, is not a she at all, it was a he. And he wanted to point out that this person appeared in several videos back during that time. And it led me down the rabbit hole because there's a whole lot of questions involved in that. And it really got me thinking about all the things in the 90s, especially being in LA and being, knee deep, actually not even knee deep, like, chin deep in the music business there and all the shenanigans and things. So it's been a while since I've had a shenanigans, entertainment industry shenanigans discussion. Thought I would back away from guitars and such for tonight, and get into the more broader aspect of the music industry, especially addressing it from my past. I honestly think that it was a golden age for the music business. I think the 90s, they say the 2000s, but the 90s really was the pinnacle, especially the mid 90s, by 94, 95. And it was a rich environment to be in. It'll never happen again like that. And it's just like one of those, you had to be there in order to experience it, one of the kind of thing. However, that being said, there were a lot of shenanigans that went on. And in my history, as I've mentioned before, but I'll just refresh for those who are new here. One of the reasons I'm sitting here right now in Amsterdam is my direct desire to flee away from the LA music scene, because it was nuts. And in many ways, it's the stories that but I don't want to get into those stories per se. I just want to set up for tonight's title. So you want to be a rock star. Because every now and then on YouTube, I also see people talking about, well, if you want to, do this in the music industry, be prepared to do this and do that. Some of these deals that you're going to take are not advantageous to you. Some of the situations you're going to find yourself you're in are not going to be advantageous to you. And there actually are so many warning videos on YouTube, warning people, hey, maybe the music business is not for you. But, there's all different aspects of the music industry. And I chose to get into scoring music for TV commercials because it was, once you found a producer who got a lot of work, who were doing a lot of commercials and they liked you, then every time they did a gig, you pretty much well had that gig, which was in my case, or introduced to other people, and then they set you up for gigs. And none of that did I ever have to get into any of the situations that I was finding myself prior to in LA. This is many years later, because I did kind of take a break from the music industry for a bit. But honestly, again, don't paint such a broad brush over the industry when you see these warning videos. I think they're great. A lot of good information in there, a lot of truth in there. But there are aspects of the music business that you can go into, whatever the options of them going forward would be. Certainly the ones that were available to me are closing. But there are aspects of the business that you can get to without getting into some of the traps that I'm going to talk about tonight. So this is my warning video, I guess, in a way. I wrote a script for it. Again, it's weird how that guy talking about that Big Papa video and how, oh, that's not a girl, that's a guy. I was like, wow, it's like an iconic video. And that's a very interesting, little tidbit of information. And it's, again, going down rabbit holes about things, remembering back to things when I was in LA, got me to writing a little bit. So I put this down into 4 segments tonight: romanticizing the dream of becoming a musician, the realities of the grind, hard work, challenges, and struggles is segment 2. Segment 3, we're going to talk about fame versus fortune versus love of music, what really matters. And then I'm going to touch in segment 4 briefly on 360 deals, the fine print, and how they can leave you broke. Just as an example, we're going to, delve into the realities of life as a musician um, in a broad sense. Again, like I said, if you look on the broad sense, there are, in terms of the music industry, as I was saying, there's many different job titles that you could take, where you don't have to find yourself in a jacuzzi with some unless you want executive kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff you can do in there. But in terms of being a musician, um, I'm going to be a little broad, but I think that something in here everybody who aspires to or has been or is a working musician could kind of identify with. We talk about what drives people to pursue music. Is it the fame? Is it the fortune? Or just a pure love of music? Um, and I think that's a good place to start. Let's start with the dream. You know, for me, I love music. Listen to it all the time. Again, like I said, my dad had a fantastic stereo system, and and I wore out more than a few of his nice needles, uh, playing records and listening to things, and of course piano lessons, um, self-taught guitar and bass lessons, drum lessons, um, all of that. You know, I guess in a way it was predestined that that was what I was going to do. My parents had other plans for me. They, my father is a strict go to college, get a degree, go work for somebody, and that's fine, but that wasn't something that appealed to me. I was willing to bend on the education thing, but I checked out of college by my sophomore year. I mentally checked out of college by ask a jock sometime tell you. But I was single minded in my desire to work in the music industry, and this is despite the fact that I had a high school music teacher, Mr. Magruder, who was also the same music teacher for Danny Elfman, tell me that I would never have any career in the music business. And boy, was. But again, he was thinking in terms of the music business of his time, so much so that that doesn't exist. And he didn't foresee, the future of things, how things were going. So that's something also to keep in mind. But let's start with the dream. We all know what that looks like, right? Playing to sold out stadiums for some of us. Maybe having fans and living the raw life, or spending all your time just being in a recording studio, recording tracks, working with artists, producing music. For so many people, that dream starts at a young age. Maybe you're jamming on a guitar or you're belting out tunes in the shower. Sometimes, you want to imagine yourself on the stage, and there it is, too. Uh, I find it amazing that with Prince, uh, Warner executives, when they went to go see his first live show, thought he wasn't going to do great because he was too shy to even turn around and face the audience. He played and sang with his back to the audience for most of the set. He eventually got out of that and became a phenomenal, but sometimes you want to break out of that shell. And, you know, this is romanticized by movies, TV, and media too, you know. The idea of fame, money, and recognition is all alluring. Who wouldn't want that? But the reality is, this dream often overlooks the years of grind and sacrifice that it takes to get you there, if you ever do. And by the way, I have met some really, really talented musicians of mine, guys that I knew that were just something else. They were, you know, they were something else. They were even I could recognize these, like John McKnight, my friend John McKnight. I could recognize that that guy was on another level, like you know, a Prince level in terms of his musicianship, because there wasn't an instrument that he couldn't play and play well. He's the one who taught me drums. We were roommates in college first, our freshman year. But despite all that talent, I never heard or saw anything from John. I know he could be selling real estate in Sheboygan now, for all I know. But talent has nothing to do with it, by the way. So, but regardless, you do have to do the grind and the sacrifice. And let's not forget, only 20% of musicians ever get to live out that fantasy. Whether you want to be that guy on stage or you want to be that guy in the studio, very few get a chance to fit in those positions and live out that fantasy. We'll get into the specifics of the grind in a bit, but first let's reflect on why so many of us chase this dream. And you have to ask yourself, if you're here watching this tonight, this is a question I want you to ask yourself. Is it for the love of music, or is it for the shiny allure of fame? Is what I'm calling it tonight, the shiny allure of fame. You know what? I've said this before. You know, what is the holly tree made out of? Bueller, anybody? What is the holly tree made out of? It's made out of Hollywood. And symbolically, what is Hollywood? Hollywood is the wood that is used by witches in the Grimm stories and classic literature as the wood for broomsticks and magic wands. It's Hollywood. And interesting enough, a little side note on that side note is that on a Les Paul, on the headstock, they're usually on a real Les Paul, that veneer at the headstock is a Hollywood veneer. Why are you talking about Hollywood, Michael? Well, the shiny allure of fame. The shiny allure of fame. You know, if the Hollywood is all tied into magic, then that means it's all illusion. Because what are magic tricks? They're illusions. So again, what drives you? Is it the music itself or something else? Now let's talk about the reality behind the scenes. Becoming a successful musician is hard work. No two ways about it. Absolutely. By the way, catch up here. All right. It's hard work. You know, I loved it so much that even though I know it was, how can I put this? Low pay, not eating well, half a tank of gas in my car all the time, it seemed like. And maybe I'm romanticizing it in hindsight, but really, it was grind, but it was fun for me. So, yeah, it's hard, but you could ask any gigging musician, all the things, but when you get up on stage and you're playing, it's the best. There's a lot of things, steps to get to that point, but once you're up there and playing, it's usually a great feeling. But it is hard work, no two ways about it. Late nights, rejection, constant hustle, never knowing whether or not your big break will ever come. So let me break down a few realities that people most overlook when they think about getting into the business. Time investment. It takes years to become proficient on an instrument. Develop your voice, get the knowledge to use a year in the studio. How does you know how much? How does not how much? How does a particular piece of gear work? And there's many particular pieces of gear that you have to learn. So behind every overnight success is typically years and years and years of hard work. And the financial struggles. Most musicians don't get paid much and get paid even less these days, if at all, when they're starting out or even continuing. Between paying for studio time, equipment, transportation, and promotions, many musicians actually end up spending more than they make. This is true of a lot of, there's a lot of cats that are going out on tours, indie groups, that I'm reading about, and all reporting back that they're actually losing money in the hundreds to the thousands, depending upon the act, at every show. It's costing them money sometimes to play. And that's ramping up. So, that's an issue, because you would certainly like to try to tour enough so that you earn enough to not only support the cost of the tour, but also put enough aside for your expenses. And if you're really lucky, be able to put enough aside for studio time. So that you can independently produce your album, so that you can take your album to a record company and say, hey, let's do a distribution on this, I own the masters. But again, like I said, there's a lot of financial struggles that make that a difficult thing to do. Personal sacrifices. I can speak on this really because I, have lost a lot of the relationships that I had in high school and college because I'm gone. I'm not there. I'm not around to bump into at the grocery store. I'm not. Relationships, stable jobs, sometimes even mental health I've seen, trying to pursue this dream. It's not uncommon to hear stories of musicians living in their cars, couch surfing, or struggling to make ends meet just so they can keep pursuing their vision. I was lucky. I don't know. I was fortunate, but never had to sleep in my car. I slept on the studio floor, tell you that much. Got up and got back into it again too, just to grind. And of course, this leads to a lot of mental health pressures. The constant pressure to make it. The rejection that you get. These issues lead to anxiety, depression, and burnout. And this is often common in the music industry. So I suffered burnout from playing live. It's why I took a hiatus in music. I still, of course, I wrote and produced at home in Japan. But I took a break from the music business until I got my band together and started performing my first album live. It was about 5 years, and it was burnout. The guys that I was dealing with, a lot of them were great guys, but women and drinking and some drugs mixed in the mix just got it back to that level of crap that I was trying to avoid in LA. So I said, these brothers brought it with them. they exported it out in the States to right back to my lap again. I was like, no thank you. Dave's Waffle House in the house. I just stopped 2 years ago after touring for 25 years on the road. I can relate. I've subbed. Hey, Dave's Waffle House. Thank you so much, brother. Welcome to the community. Yeah, I got burnt out because because I was, I was doing R&B mostly work, and I was dealing with East Coast brothers, and God bless them, but it was a little bit much for me. And I said I can do other things with my life other than this. These guys, what they do, I'm not limited to just this, fortunately. But the mental health and pressure burned me out. And if any of you have experienced this grind firsthand, as was just stated here, I'm sure you can dig it. It's like High Tide Harris, my guitar teacher, told me. He said, "Hey man, dig it." In other words, get into it, understand it, go to a deeper level with it. Now, this brings us to the heart of the conversation. Why do you want to be a musician in the first place? For the fame, the fortune, the girls, I don't know, the guys, I don't know. Certainly in that Biggie video that led this off I was talking about, that's the case. Or purely for the love of the music. So let's break these down a bit. Fame. Fame. I really think that David Bowie, in his lyrics for his song Fame, really sums it up in ways that are still resonating for the 40 or plus years that recording came out. It's intoxicating. Can be. Everybody knows your name, people admire you, and you feel important. And this, can extend out. You think that I'm just talking about a record contract. If you become, a big enough YouTuber, it's the same thing. It's got all the same trappings, so it's no different. So we could extend this out to a couple of things. With fame, of course, comes a loss of privacy, constant scrutiny, immense pressure, not to mention fame is fleeting. Today's viral sensation is tomorrow's forgotten name. I was another video this week that I was watching. I don't know why it came into my filter, because I'm into my feed here on YouTube, because I could hear two shits about modern hip hop. But it was talking about this Ice Spice girl and how she can't sell any records. It was an embarrassing amount of records that she sold. Back in the day, if you sold that amount of records and you were signed to Motown like I was, you'd be out. You're done. You're not doing a second one. So maybe things are different these days. I don't know. But she was a viral sensation. She was a TikTok star. Where's your audience to go out and buy your record? Where's your audience to go and buy tickets to your concert that failed because you couldn't sell? A lot of these guys, again, I said earlier, a lot of these cats can't sell out a concert hall. Fame is a very fleeting thing, and today's viral sensation really is tomorrow's forgotten name. Let's be honest, most musicians don't get rich. This is really what I really want to say. Mozart. I was listening to yet another video that came into my feed that does make sense to me. I was listening to the guy playing Mozart piano pieces from the time that he was 5 years old at the time of his death of 36. And to listen to, he would play a few minutes, a minute or so, the most important parts of it, the movement. And just to see the progression of his music. I mean, obviously as a child, at 5 years old, I wasn't writing that. I wasn't writing, the songs that he was writing. But he died and was buried in a pauper's grave. Did you know that about Mozart? I talk about Van Gogh. His museum right up the street. The Van Gogh Museum is right up the street. I went to a private exhibition there Matthew Wong and Vincent van Gogh. And I'm always, I can stand in front of the painting, the distance of this camera that I'm recording with tonight, and I see the beauty and the intricate brushstrokes and skill that it took in order to create that artwork, and he died. You know, the way he died. So, fame, keeping those things, I know that's a bummer, it's a hard, you know, little stories to tell, but it leads into my next part, fortune. So we talked about fame, let's talk about fortune. Let's be real. Most musicians don't get rich. Even those who seem to make it often struggle financially due to the nature of the business. Tours are expensive. Albums cost a lot to produce. And often merch doesn't always make up the difference. You know, I sold during my second, when I got back in and I had my Asanoki band, I sold merch. I sold CDs and t-shirts that I made in Thailand. And sometimes I did well, sometimes I didn't. You know, it was uneven. Albums costing a lot to produce, certainly. That price is down with home studios, however, you really need to have an experienced engineer, even with a home studio. Now, we'll touch more on this in our next segment on record deals, but money in the music industry can be shockingly elusive. Shockingly elusive, I tells you. What we got here? Toxicologist, the producer. Hey, how you doing? How long did it take for you to get a professional sound? Get a professional sound from music? Well, for me personally, so I was 16, and my friend Drake introduced me to a guy who had an in at Stevie Wonder's writers' quarters, Black Bull Publishing, and they put us in a room with a 4-track and a Tascam 4-track, a drum machine. I can't remember, a Casio. I can't remember what it was, a CZ101 or something like that. A keyboard, and you had to write. And that was a good learning experience, a very brief one, but a good learning experience for me. By the time I was 17, I was being asked by friends to go into the Right Track studio in Santa Monica. Doesn't exist anymore, of course. It was a 16-track studio to record the songs, to act as a producer. Of course, I had an engineer, but in this case, the engineer, he acted as a second to me. And that was just out of just getting it. Again, then later on, then by the time I got to college and got into the music department there, I wasn't majoring in it, but I took some classes in engineering, and at Cal State Northridge. So by that point, what was that? 20. Long answer then. Dave's Waffle House. I wanted to be a rock star. Settled for professional touring musician instead. Loved every minute of it, miss it. Yeah, I miss the playing. That's the part of it, in performing. All the other stuff around it, I could care less about. But I do miss playing. I like because sometimes when everybody's in the pocket and everything's just right, there's a video of me playing in Japan, playing a song "Strolling in the Moonlight," and we're going into the solo for the keyboard solo, and you can see me in the video. I just look over at my bass player and just kind of nod and smile, because both of us, we were, it was in the pocket, and that's what I'm talking. I'm glad that somebody filmed that, because that's what I'm talking about, moments like that. So there is that. It's not all so bad, but money in the industry can be shockingly elusive. At its core, musicians who last are those who genuinely love what they do. That's really what it comes down to. The passion to create, perform, now it's going to come at us. There's a price to pay. But, you love what you did. Create, perform, and connect with others through music is what sustains you through the ups and downs of this crazy industry. If you're in it for the music, you have the best chance of staying happy regardless of fame or fortune. If you're in it because you love the joy of music, say it again, then you will have a good time regardless of fame or fortune. For sure. For sure. Dave's Waffle House. Nothing better than when you're in that moment when you know you're smashing it out the park. Yeah, I call it, the pocket is what I call it. I tell the story too, I was listening to a jazz trio in Bangkok one night in this club, and the drummer was so back in the pocket that he was so behind the beat that I almost fell back in my chair because I physically reacted he was so behind. He was not in the pocket. Well, when you're in the pocket, it's something else, and you're not. Then it's automatic. You've already rehearsed, so it's not about what you're playing. It's about what you're playing. I guess metaphysical stuff there a little bit, guys. So you gotta love music. You really do. Now let's get into one of the more critical aspects of the music business: record deals. I only want to touch upon this because I will hammer on this as many opportunities as I get. Is the 360 deal. A 360 deal is a type of recording contract where the label takes a cut of everything: album sales, touring, merchandise, endorsements, and more. In return, the label usually provides a high level of financial support that you're paying for. It's like that Drake deal that was, supposedly $800 million or whatever it was. Trust me, they're taking $800 million worth of flesh off that guy. And in the end, I do believe Kendrick Lamar is an independent guy, and he's making more money. And you see, and Drake isn't one of these 360 deals. Sure, they'll give you, money up front, but you got to pay all this stuff back, and then the accountant's shady, and oh my God. So just interesting that anybody would put their pen to paper on this. This is not a great deal. The label is essentially betting that you'll be successful, but if you aren't successful as projected, or if you don't recoup your advance, again, I talked about they'll give you a healthy advance in these 60s. That's the carrot. Is that they ump the advances. If you don't recoup advance, meaning if your album sales, again, like the before mentioned Ice Spice, do not pull your advance and exceed it, then you're going to be in debt. They might take 30% or more of your touring income, 25% of your merch, and do various cuts from every revenue stream. If you got a YouTube channel, they're going to take a cut of that. If you got Instagram, they're going to take a cut of that if you're getting any income from that. You might be famous, but the money you make often doesn't trickle down to you. Now, you think that this is a modern thing. This is not a modern. It is common for artists to sign a 360 deal, hit the charts, and still be broke after the fact. Now I'm going to reach back in time. So imagine a spinning circle, and we're going back in time to artists like TLC and Toni Braxton. I met Toni Braxton once. Well, I won't say that I met her, but she came to Babyface's studio that I was working as a second engineer at, and I saw her going down the hallway with Kenny, and she was a doll. She was so beautiful. But she's bankrupt. She went bankrupt. TLC, another example out of that group. Bankrupt. Their contracts made it difficult to make ends meet despite their fame. The industry can be unforgiving, especially if you fully don't understand the legalities of your contract. And how can you? And who do they give the contracts to? I don't want to get into the conspiracy too much, but they're not as actually giving record contracts to Harvard graduates. I'm just saying. Guys that could look at the contract and say, guys, no, I don't think so. We're going to change this, and this, and this is completely illegal, and we're going to do this. No, they don't sign that guy. They sign the guys like, oh man, they're giving me $100,000 up front, I signed a 360 deal, and they own 25 of everything, but I'm good, you know. If you're offered a record deal, especially a 360 deal, consult a lawyer, preferably one with experience in entertainment law. But very few people do that. Believe me, I know from experience, I've seen it happen. Do your homework. It's not enough to be talented, you need to be savvy. So, I honestly fled LA. There was I told this story, but I'll tell it again because it comes to mind. There was a studio that I was working at as the one of the engineers. There was another guy that worked there. What was his name? I want to say his name was. I knew two Ricky, so he was Ricky one, and there was another Ricky I knew, a keyboard player. But Ricky, he and I engineered 24-track studio. Nice Trident board. Really nice place. Owned by a drug dealer. Because that's where the money for most of R&B and rap music came from during the 90s. And money laundering, obviously. And Ricky came up to SE unit where Jock and I worked. I would go there. I stopped working there because once Jock introduced me to Reggie Andrews, and Reggie Andrews accepted me into SEU unit as a producer and started feeding me to Motown and getting me all these gigs, effectively acting as my manager. I stopped messing around with those guys down there at that studio. Ricky came up, I invited him to come up to SEU, and he said he got tied up. These guys came in with shotguns. He got tied up to the chair in the control room with shotguns pointed at his head, talking about where's this guy who owned the studio. And he said he'd never been more scared in his life. And I was like, yeah, because I could totally see that happen. And about a week later, they found the guy who owned the studio in his house. And there was, when I say they found him, they found parts of him. It's like the cop shows you the picture and says, how many bodies do you see in this picture? It's a trick question. It's actually a fraction. So yeah, that's what it ended up with him. Just stuff like that. And just craziness in LA that drove me away. But I went in the right direction, and I had a positive, despite what Mr. Magruder said, I had a fantastic experience in the music industry, still in. So there's that. So there you have it. The realities of life as a musician. It's all glamour and glory. The music industry can be incredibly rewarding, but it also could be extremely harsh, guys. I haven't told you some of the things I don't want to talk about. Some of the things I saw, but I know I'm not writing a book about it either. But it can be harsh. And at the end of the day, it's important to ask yourself, why do you really want to pursue this path? Is it for the fame, the fortune, or simply because you can't imagine your life without music? It's not a day that goes by I don't play my guitar. Even here with the keyboards recently, I started playing keyboards again. I stopped playing keyboards for a long. After I recorded the album, I think A Heart Comes In. No. Yeah, I re-recorded A Heart Comes In From the Cold Here, the piano parts. After I did that, I recorded it. I I close the piano patch and I stop playing piano. I take a hiatus from instruments. Like I've taken a permanent hiatus from the drums. I for for various reasons I cannot and will not play the drums anymore. I'll play drum pads a little bit, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't play an instrument. And at the end of the day, it's important to ask yourself, why do you want to pursue this path? You know, no matter what your motivation, remember, stay true to yourself. Understand the business and always keep the love of music at the core of what you do, or things will go south for you real fast. And honestly, it's very rewarding, to play, especially in front of an audience. I think that's one of the best things. I think that's the true essence of making records is great. Being kind of introverted, lightly, I guess I've gotten out of that. I can't call myself that so much anymore. But I have tendencies of that. The studio is a place that I prefer to be. And so much so that I taught myself that I could do it by myself. I don't need anybody in there because I don't want anybody around. Um, but playing live was more fulfilling, and the audience reacting, and the people coming up afterwards saying, "Hey man, I really like what you play." That's the truth of it. There is, in my mind, that's the truth. Of course, unfortunately, there's perversions of that as well on the metaphysical level that people are doing with concerts, but that's a subject for another time. Really, playing live in front of people is something that I enjoy, and I may do again. Like I said, I'm down the street from the best lives in the country. So I might consider putting a band together. It's hard to say. Hard to say. All right, there's that. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's discussion. So you want to be a rock star? I really like doing this YouTube channel because it gives me a chance to talk about these subjects and give my perspective, my experienced viewpoint on them. And maybe if it reaches somebody and somebody says to themselves, hey, maybe there's another way to do this. Maybe that's not a route that I want to go, then that's good. That's great. Or if it informs somebody about something that they did not know, that they weren't aware of, that's great too. Either way, I enjoy doing it. I do it for the love of it. It's obviously not for money. I do have a goal of getting to 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year. And Dave's Waffle House put me one closer to that goal tonight, so thank you. I really want to thank you guys for watching tonight. I'm going to cut it a little short because, like I said, I got about 3 hours of sleep last night. And I tried to stretch out on the couch today this afternoon after I did my work, but it was so hot, like I said, that was fleeting. Even though I am on the top floor and I get a great cross breeze, it was still a little warm today. So I'm going to, I think I was respectable. Where are we at? Yeah, 50 minutes. That's a respectable amount of time for a live stream tonight. And I think we covered that enough. Thank you, Ben, for always listening in, man. Thank you so much, Ben. Really. Cheers to you, sir. And to the rest of you, thank you so much. I had a few trolls here tonight. They're fine. They don't bother me. I want to thank you guys, the non-trolls, for showing up. And if you're going to watch this in the rerun, thank you. And I want to also ask everybody to always leave a comment down in the comment section. If you do watch this, I really, really want it from you. So drop me a line down in the comment section. Until the next one, you guys take care. Bye-bye.